The flying pigeon bicycle was transportation and a family asset in one machine. Press a foot into the pedal and the crank turns the chainring. The chain drives the rear wheel, while the rider steers, brakes, and carries a load on the rack. In a rationed market, owning this simple machine could mean daily mobility, household utility, and visible readiness for marriage. The flying pigeon name began in Tianjin in 1950. China's Ministry of Commerce records that workers completed 10 new samples on July 5, named them for a flying dove, and put the bicycle on the market on October 1. The same official history says 7,257 flying pigeon bicycles made entirely with domestic parts were produced that year. This was more than a new badge on a familiar frame. It was an attempt to make a durable national product at repeatable scale. The bicycle asked for no fuel, battery, timetable, or fare after purchase. Human effort entered through two pedals. A chain carried that turning force to the rear wheel. Pneumatic tires rolled over the street. Brakes converted motion into heat, and the frame held rider and cargo in one compact structure. That mechanism made a bicycle personally controlled but also dependent on roads, secure storage, repair, and access to the product itself. In the planned economy, access was not automatic. The Ministry of Commerce's Digital Museum says flying pigeon was sold through centralized state purchasing and distribution, and that a purchase ticket was highly desired. It also places the bicycle beside the watch and sewing machine among the household's three major goods. A new flying pigeon given as dowry could attract admiration at a wedding. The machine therefore carried two kinds of value. It moved a person through the city, and it showed that a family had secured a scarce, useful possession. Its later decline was not mechanical failure. China changed around it. A peer-reviewed World Bank study describes a surge in national bicycle ownership through the 1980s, followed by the growth of cars and electric bicycles and the marginalization of conventional cycling in many cities. Flying pigeon survived, but the old equation between one black roadster and modern household mobility no longer held. Begin at the moment the product becomes useful. A rider pushes down on one pedal, the opposite pedal rises, and the crank rotates the front chainring. The chain pulls the rear sprocket, the rear wheel turns, and the bicycle moves without a motor. Steering redirects the front wheel, brakes remove speed. The frame joins rider, wheels, and luggage into one controllable unit. A rear rack changes the bicycle from a device for a single body into a carrier for bags and ordinary goods. None of these actions is exotic, which is exactly why the design mattered. Once purchased, the rider could choose a route and departure time without buying fuel or waiting for a vehicle. The machine converted food energy and balance into repeatable door-to-door mobility. The product's origin is unusually well documented by Chinese government sources. The Ministry of Commerce traces the factory site to a bicycle works established in Tianjin in 1936. After the city changed hands in 1949, the plant resumed work as a state enterprise and was named the Tianjin Bicycle Factory. On July 5, 1950, workers completed 10 samples. The official account says their light, sturdy motion suggested wings, while the contemporary peace movement inspired the name flying pigeon. The bicycle reached the market on October 1. That sequence matters because it separates three different dates that are often blurred together: the predecessor factory, the 1950 samples, and the product's commercial launch. The Flying Pigeon brand belongs to 1950. Even though manufacturing at the site began earlier, scaling the bicycle required more than copying a silhouette. The Ministry of Commerce says the 1950 output of 7,257 flying pigeons used domestic parts. In May 1957, the factory produced the PA01 standard bicycle under national specifications. A men's 710mm model using the metric system. The same government history credits this standard model with helping unify part names. design specifications, and quality requirements across an industry whose dimensions had not been consistent. Standardization is invisible when it succeeds. A rider sees a complete bicycle, while factories and repairers see interfaces that must agree. Frame dimensions, fasteners, bearings, wheels, chains, and brakes. The PA01 story shows how an ordinary product can become industrial infrastructure when its measurements teach many producers and workshops to speak the same mechanical language. For a household, however, the decisive technology was access. The Ministry of Commerce describes Flying Pigeon as a product handled through centralized state purchasing and sales. A bicycle ticket was coveted because cash by itself did not guarantee that a buyer could obtain the scarce machine. That constraint turned the purchase into a family project. Once acquired, the object could support repeated trips to work, shops, school, or family obligations without a recurring fare. It could wait outside the home and leave when its rider was ready. The value therefore accumulated across thousands of small journeys rather than one dramatic event. A bicycle could save walking time, extend the practical radius of a day, and carry a modest load. Scarcity magnified those everyday benefits into status because ownership revealed both usefulness and hard-won access. The wedding connection was not invented for a modern advertisement. China's Ministry of Commerce lists the bicycle with the watch and sewing machine as the three major household goods of the rationed era, and says a new flying pigeon included in a bride's dowry could draw admiration. A Hubei provincial culture history likewise explains that the bicycle wheel was one of the three things that turned in the phrase 3 turns and 1 sound, a shorthand for desirable marriage goods around the late 1970s and early 1980s. This does not mean every wedding included the same objects, or that every bicycle was a flying pigeon. It shows something more careful. In documented settings, a bicycle could be evaluated as durable household capital as well as transport. The product entered marriage because it promised work after the ceremony. By the late 20th century, the scale extended far beyond one family. A peer-reviewed study by World Bank transport researchers reports roughly 225 million bicycles in China in 1985 and about 440 million in 1992. Those are national ownership figures, not flying pigeon sales. The same paper separately cites factory production of about 10,000 flying pigeons per day in the late 1970s and 6.1 million bicycles per year in the late 1980s. Keeping those numbers separate prevents a famous brand from being mistaken for the entire market. Together they establish the real context. Bicycles became a mass transport system assembled from individually owned machines. The crowded cycle lanes remembered in photographs were not an abstract national symbol. They were millions of independent departures converging on work, errands, education, and home. The bicycle kingdom did not end on one date. The World Bank study finds that conventional bicycle use was marginalized from the late 1980s as Chinese cities changed, and its Wuhan case links declined to rising private car ownership, car-oriented roads, urban expansion, and inadequate cycling planning. Later electric bicycles added another alternative, offering powered travel with less rider effort. Public transit also expanded the set of practical trips that did not require a personal pedal bicycle. These forces did not make a flying pigeon stop working. They changed the comparison around it. A route that once favored a sturdy roadster might later be faster by metro, easier by electric bike, or more prestigious by car. The product lost its old monopoly on aspiration before it lost the ability to move. Flying Pigeon remains a useful relic precisely because the company and brand did not vanish. Its official site now presents bicycles alongside electric bicycles, tricycles, folding bicycles, and other wheeled products. Survival makes the historical contrast clearer. In 1950, the crucial achievement was domestic production of a simple human-powered vehicle. In the rationed decades, the same object could become a scarce household asset and wedding good. During the bicycle boom, it participated in a national system of daily mobility. Later, it became one choice among cars, metros, electric two-wheelers, shared bikes, and recreational cycles. The lasting legacy is not a claim that one brand moved every Chinese rider. It is the verified story of how a standardized, repairable bicycle helped make personal mobility something a household could own, schedule, load, and pass through everyday life.